Are you due around the holidays or even a long weekend? If you are, then you're definitely going to want to watch this video because statistically speaking, if you are due around the holidays or a major long weekend, you are more likely to end up with a C-section or even just having more intervention in your birth than at any other time of the year. Hi, my name is Carly Bonderud, and this is the Empowered Birth series where I go deep into everything you need to know to plan and get your empowered true natural birth. And this is season 3, the Cesarean Traps. If you're brand new to me, then you may not already be aware of what this series is. You have just stumbled into a deep dive masterclass. That means that I'm going to be going deep into everything you need to know about this insidious trap of going into labor or being due around the holidays or a major long weekend, and how this manifests into an unwanted, unnecessary C-section. Because you see, the cesarean traps, as you will find out if you continue to go through the series, are designed to keep you stuck in fear and deferring to the experts, and then that leads to more unnecessary C-sections. If you aren't familiar, then I'm going to also encourage you to check out the playlist on my YouTube channel. Just go and check out the Cesarean Traps playlist and watch the first video in the series because that's going to give you the overview of what a cesarean trap is, how to spot it, and why it's so important to avoid those traps at all costs. Further into this series, I also have videos that go into each of the 21 traps that I've listed out in a little PDF guide. You can go and get that guide off of my website if you go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/freebies, and then you can grab that 21 traps mini guide. The way that these videos are basically structured is I'm going to tell you what the trap is, I'm going to tell you how to apply the empowered birth method to the trap, and then I'm also going to give you additional resources. So if you are kind of familiar with the process, then you already know how this works. And if you're not familiar, then I just want to let you know this is part of a series. You can binge watch the entire series or pick and choose whichever videos interest you the most. However, I do encourage you to watch the first video because that's going to give you more of an overview of the trap and the empowered birth method. Okay, so let's just quickly dive into what we're going to be learning today because this has come from years of going through actual statistics. And around the holidays, I call that time of year induction season and also cesarean season. This is something that a lot of birth workers also point out quite often. They'll say that your baby doesn't care what time of the year it is, but statistically what happens is around major holidays, the cesarean rate spikes up, as does the induction rate and the rate of intervention. So how do you spot this trap? Well, first of all, what you really need to know is that just because you're due around the holidays doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have your baby on that holiday. At the same time, we have a societal pressure to have our babies before the holidays so that everybody can see that new baby. That's problematic in itself because new babies have lower immune system resistance, and typically if you are passing that baby around, they can contract diseases that they otherwise wouldn't, like they could catch a cold, and that can be fatal for the baby, or at least cause a lot of inconvenience for you because nobody enjoys trying to nurse a sick baby. I've done it. It's not fun. They pull off the breast every few minutes. They cry. They're all plugged up. It's awful. It's really awful. So what I normally do when I have little babies is I don't take them out very often. I don't pass them around to people, and that protects their immune system, and I'm also breastfeeding. But see, if you're recovering postpartum and you're also dealing with the holidays, this can be a lot of stress, and it can be tempting when your care provider says, let's induce before the holidays so you can have your baby. It can be really tempting to say yes. And when you say yes, you think, well, I'll have my baby on X day. That's not what happens. If baby is not ready to come, induction can take days. It may not work. And if they've gotten too far into the process to turn back, it's a C-section. The other one is long weekends. Statistically speaking, if you look at when babies are born, if a baby is born on a Friday, it's because of a C-section. And you have to be really strong and aware of the fact that everybody is a human first and an expert second. So this means that, yes, your care provider, they want to be home for the holidays. Everybody wants to be home for the holidays. Your care provider really doesn't want to be called in on a weekend or called in on a major holiday to help you catch your baby. At the same time, just because you go into labor on a holiday or on the weekend doesn't mean that nobody's going to be there for you. And this is a scare tactic that a lot of unscrupulous care providers will do for their own best interests. And they'll say, well, I'm going to be going on vacation, so it's best if we induce, or it's best if you schedule a C-section, especially if you're a VBAC mom. And then what they do is they just schedule your birth. It's more convenient for the system. It is not more convenient for you. Go check out some of my other videos that talk about why you don't want to have a scheduled birth, the C-section. I mean, I have so many of them. The Essential Tips series talks about true natural birth. The natural birth traps is where I talk about all of the things that can derail your natural birth. And the Cesarean Traps is basically building off of season 1 and season 2 of the Empowered Birth series. So recognizing this, that statistically speaking, if you go into labor around the holidays or major long weekends, there are more C-sections and inductions happening. How do you protect yourself from this? Well, first of all, go in at the last possible minute. This is something I tell all of my clients. Like, if you want to have a natural birth, you don't need to be in the hospital, because the hospital is where they are wanting to manage birth. That's what they're taught to do. So they are going to offer you drugs. They are going to try to do their routine interventions. They're going to want to do vaginal exams. They're going to want to monitor you. But if you were having a home birth, you wouldn't need that. So this is basically for if you are having a hospital birth, you really want to be aware of this. But also home birth, it can sometimes factor in where midwives are like, well, we won't have enough people, so you'll have to go in. There's loopholes around that, don't worry. And if you have any questions about what loopholes I found, you can always reach out to me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm happy to share my secrets because I'm committed to you having an empowered birth, whether you work with me directly or not. Information is free, and I only charge for access to me. So recognizing, first of all, go in at the last possible minute. Don't call your midwife until you're pushing, because they may try to redirect you to go to the hospital, even if you're planning a home birth. And then finally, out of that, you also need to be aware that there is going to be more pressure to get the baby out by a certain point. So the less you are in that environment for pressure and the less pressure you have on the outside, the more you can focus on your labor. The next one that I would suggest is, if anybody is giving you the idea to induce or have a C-section just for an arbitrary date on the calendar, you shut that down. You absolutely shut that down. Okay. You don't even entertain that. I have a question your induction mini challenge. So you can go into the courses section of my YouTube channel and go through that. And that will give you more of an idea. I deliberately created this challenge around induction season because I know, okay? I see it in the mom groups all the time. I know exactly when it comes up. Typically at the end of October, I'm already on the alert for it. I'm watching for the moms to start saying, help, I'm being induced, help, they're trying to push me into a C-section. They're saying that I can't have my VBAC. They're telling me that my baby is too big. I mean, what really happens is they may not even suggest it's the holidays. They'll invent reasons to interfere with your birth. So big baby, small baby, low fluid, too much fluid. Just the fact that you're showing little bits of high blood pressure, but just the fact that maybe you had a complication in the past, or you have a variation. Go check out one of my other videos on assessing risk. And again, inside of the Question Your Induction mini challenge, I also go into a shorter version of assessing risk. So even though it's geared towards avoiding induction, it will also help you in avoiding a C-section, because induction leads to C-section. Pushing the epidural can lead to C-section. Getting Pitocin can lead to C-section. I just did a video not too long ago inside of the Cesarean Trap series on Pitocin, so you can go and check that out as well for an overview. And then in addition to that, I also have my natural birth traps. So be familiar with those natural birth traps. Be familiar with the essential tips to having a true natural birth, because the medical system is going to try to push you into fear. Some care providers, I call category 5s. They got in it for the money. So they get more money if they do a C-section. And if they schedule your birth before they go on their vacation, that is convenient to them. So they're looking at what is convenient to them. That's all they care about. And they will absolutely push every single fear button on you, any possible tactic that they can use to get you to schedule your birth. In my case, they were looking at it as I was going to be giving birth around Mother's Day and a May long weekend. So they decided to tell me that my baby wasn't growing properly. I mean, on the ultrasound, it did look like he was smaller, but at the same time, they didn't tell me that when they continued to monitor the growth that it was normal. They let me think for 4 weeks that my baby was too small before my midwife finally got fed up with the system. And she's like, you know what? I don't care that you guys have tried to tie my hands on this. I'm telling her the truth. But as a first-time mom, I also recognized, like, I didn't know that I could say no to the hospital birth and plan the home birth again. I thought it was too late. I thought I was going to have my baby the next week. When you're a first-time mom, you think baby can come at any time and that time is going to be shorter. Typically, what happens is you're closer to 42 weeks. I'm just going to tell you that. You're closer to 42 weeks. And if you're already a 42-week mama, and then they're suggesting that you induce or have a repeat C-section, that again is not giving you time to go into labor. So the way that the system is, there's a group of people that are doing it for convenience and profit and liability. And then there's everyone else who is just following along because they don't have any power and authority to change things. And they're really hoping that you'll say no to that induction or that C-section because they know what happens, but they can't say anything. So I deliberately stayed out of actual certification in the medical system. People kept saying, oh, you should be a midwife. And I'm like, oh, I can't be a midwife. It's like, but you're so good with moms. And I'm like, yes. And because of what I know about what the midwives are dealing with, I need to be the voice for them because they can't speak it out loud. So I protect people that give me information. I don't name names. And at the same time, I'll pass on that information to you. So recognize you're more likely to get a C-section if you go into the hospital and it's a Friday, or it's a long weekend, or it's around a major holiday. Stay out of the hospital until you can't stay out anymore. Okay? You want to basically be going in where you would be pushing within the next hour. You do not want to be going in when you are still kind of moseying through labor because they're going to try to speed it up. And they typically try to speed it up so that by 5 o'clock, baby is born and they can go home. This is like, it's just known in the birth community. Don Thompson has even talked about this. Like, this is something that we as birth workers who are trying to help moms have their natural births and navigate the system, we're aware of it. We cringe every time these major events come up. We look at Thanksgiving, we look at Christmas, we look at the holidays, we look at New Year's, and we're like, ugh. And then there's another one that happens in the summertime because everybody wants to go on summer vacation. So recognizing now what the trap is, how to spot it, why many people don't recognize it is because it's invented as something else. It's not always, oh, we want to get you out before 5 o'clock on a Friday. It's, oh, well, you're failing to progress, or, oh, you're not dilating properly, or, oh, you don't seem to be going into labor on your own, so we're going to induce you, or, oh, your baby's too big, your baby's too small. Like, they'll invent reasons. This is why it's really important for you to be able to assess risks and be able to also look at your birth vision and see where your hard lines are in the sand for when you would accept intervention. Because the more you can do that, the more you can stop this trap from happening completely. It's completely unnecessary for this to be happening. And profit, convenience, liability. It's the way that the system is built. So now we're going to apply the empowered birth method because I recognize that this can be confronting. After all, we have been socially conditioned to defer to authority. And when someone says that there's a complication and they are in a position of authority and they seem to have a lot of knowledge, we tend to just believe them. And then it also causes that fear to come up and be like, well, if I say no, what if it actually is a problem? This is where the empowered birth method comes in because it's a three-pronged approach. Step one is always getting past your fear. You need to have your hard lines in the sand already drawn out. You need to also recognize where your typical fears would come from and neutralize them. You don't have to get rid of them. You just have to neutralize them so that if a category 5 care provider who just wants you to have that C-section at all costs tries to press that button like a remote control, and they're like, why isn't this button working? Oh, I'll try the one over here. Big baby. Nope. Small baby. Nope. Low fluid. Nope. Uterine rupture. Nope. Baby going overdue and getting shoulder dystocia. Nope. That's not working either. None of these buttons are working. Okay, well, if you don't come in, I'm going on vacation and some stranger is going to deliver your baby. Huh. That one usually works. Why isn't that one working? It's a holiday and nobody's going to be around to catch your baby. Huh. Why aren't any of these buttons working? When you have gotten past your fear, when you have completely neutralized all the fear buttons on the outside, then all that is left is your truth. And so the empowered birth method is not birth education. That's pretty much free. I put that out everywhere. You ask me a question, I'm going to point you to the resource that I've grabbed that information from. There are so many birth workers out there that are already teaching that. I don't need to reteach that to you. I can show it to you through my own perspective and my own lens, and the information is already out there. What I want you to do, though, is I want you to know how to think about it. And I want you to be able to come to your birth from a place of power instead of a place of fear. So step one of the empowered birth method is always neutralizing fear. It's inside your empowered birth workshop as module 1. You can just put your name and email in and you'll get that program. You can also upgrade if you'd like some additional support. Details are on my website at empoweringmomsbirth.com/workshop. And, it's in everything. Everything I teach, all of my challenges, it's all about getting past fear because that is step number 1. We have a dichotomy between the natural birth community and the medical birth community. And you get caught in the middle of that. And it makes it really hard for you to know which side to trust. So I always say you are your own best expert and you know what you need. So getting past that fear block and neutralizing those fears, step 1. But it's the holidays or it's close to a long weekend. We have a society that thinks that it would be lovely for you to have your baby before a major holiday or a long weekend so that you can come with the baby. Now, even though this is really selfish, because first of all, you're a postpartum mom and you're trying to take care of a new baby. And if you've been talked into having an induction, that's trauma on top of that. If you ended up with an unnecessary C-section, now you're recovering from major abdominal surgery. And all they care about is you've passed around this baby for them to smell and coo at, and possibly that baby gets sick because somebody's brought something in that they don't feel any symptoms because they've got a strong immune system, but your baby does not. So when they do this, when they put all that pressure on you to have your baby by a certain point, or you just think, I don't want to be heavily pregnant through the holidays, which fair, what you really need is your partner to be on board. Your partner cannot be like, well, maybe we should have the baby before the holidays so that way our family can come and visit. And then they do this thing where they are undermining your resolve to stay strong and not give in to the pressure to induce or have a C-section. And also, if your care provider is throwing all of those fear buttons on you, but they're neutralized on you, your partner could be the one freaking out. And then they're the ones that are going to try to press the fear buttons on you, but there's an emotional connection. And this is where a lot of moms get tripped up because they know that there's nothing wrong and they're not afraid, but their partner is now afraid. And we have been taught and trained to be the emotional caretakers of our family and friends and partner. And this is where a lot of the emotional labor comes from. If you do not want to have to be the emotional caretaker of your grown-ass partner who is going to be your co-parent, then you need to set those boundaries now while you're still pregnant. You need to set those boundaries to be like, they can handle their feelings. I'm going to neutralize my fears, and I'm also going to recognize where their fears are coming from, but I'm not giving into it. So a lot of times with my clients, and they're like, well, my partner doesn't want to agree to a home birth, or my partner is freaking out because the doctor said this about uterine rupture, or my partner is freaking out because of what they said about stillbirth if I go past my due date. And I know that it's BS what my care provider is saying. And at the same time, my partner is freaking out. So now instead of being able to take care of myself, I'm now taking care of all my partner's fears and we're getting into an argument. The empowered birth method is all about neutralizing that and inspiring your partner to step up because they need to step up. And then finally, the last piece is advocacy. You need to recognize that even though your care provider went to school, has a little bit more authority in the community, has that prestige, they still do not know everything. Okay, they don't know everything. They are guessing. They're guessing based on patterns of pathology that they keep reading inside of the textbooks. They are basing this on their own interests or the interests of the hospital, the interests of the medical establishment that they are working within, the governing colleges. They are doing things for their own reasons, not yours. You also need to get over this fear of them not liking you. Because the thing is that you have hired them for a service. They are not mommy and daddy. You don't need to have them approve of you. And we as women have been conditioned to defer to authority. So you have all of this societal blueprint telling you to be the good girl. And I'm going to tell you right now that that does not help you. And it can be really difficult to get out of that. And so I've basically crafted the empowered birth method within the lens of birth, but you can really take this to any aspect of your life. And it's all about self first, so self-trust, then enrolling the community, and then having your own creative expression, in this case, your expression of birth. So being able to birth your way. And yes, you're co-creating with your baby as well. and they may need you to pivot your plan a little bit, but it needs to come from your intuition, not the medical system. And your baby honestly does not care that it's the holidays. They don't care that it's the weekend. They don't care that it's a long weekend. All they care about is, I'm done. I'm ready to come out and meet my mommy. And I am getting cramped in here, so I'm out. Like, that's their whole process, is like they just want out now. They didn't want out before, but now they're ready and they're wanting to come out. And they honestly don't care if they're inconveniencing anybody else. Okay? They don't care. So you need to stop caring about inconveniencing society, inconveniencing the system, inconveniencing your partner. You need to be focused on your baby. Okay? All right. So now you know a little bit more about this trap. Let's quickly recap here. Okay? So why is this so prevalent? Well, because the hospital system, it operates on profit, convenience, and liability. They need to schedule things for their own staffing. But at the same time, even if you go into labor on a weekend or a Friday at 5 o'clock, or you come in pushing and it's a holiday, someone will be there to help you. At the same time, you can catch your baby yourself. So even if they're like, well, nobody's going to catch your baby and you need to have a C-section, you can be like, I can birth this baby on this bed and you can watch me do it. And if I need some assistance, I'll call it in. But otherwise, you're backup. You're not needed. See, this is the problem, is that when they say these arbitrary things about inducing you before the holidays, it's because they think that you are going to feel like you need them. When you release the need and recognize that it can just be a want, it's like, if I need this, I'll call it in, but I'd like some support, not I have to have this at all costs, or bad things are going to happen. When you're out of that fear state, when you're in that grounded state of, I can call this in, that neutralizes this whole culture where birth is being scheduled. And then maybe if we do that and we have enough people doing that, maybe we'll stop having induction season. Maybe we'll stop having cesarean season. Maybe the rates will actually stabilize and we won't have that spike at Christmas time of C-section moms, because there's nothing worse than trying to recover from major abdominal surgery and birth trauma during the holidays when things are supposed to be joyful and happy. And you have to now put on a happy smile, even though you didn't get what you wanted in your birth. It's not okay. And I'm really standing for you having your empowered birth. So that's pretty much what I have for you in this episode. Next week, we're going to be going into trap number 18, which is vaginal exams. I've already done a video on this in the past when it comes to vaginal exams. So you may also want to check out natural birth traps, because I did go into that. I believe it's within the first 5 videos. I may be mistaken, but what you really need to know is that vaginal exams can lead to a C-section. So I'll be going into more of an overview in that one. And if you found value in this, you know what to do. Please like, share, subscribe, pay it forward, pass it on. A drop in the ocean creates ripples. Many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. And here at Empowering Moms, I'm all about changing the tide. The other thing I want to let you know is that beyond birth, we also have another segment called Empowered Mom Magic. So typically what happens is you go into your birth, you apply the empowered birth method, and then after you have your empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take your power away from you again. But then it's like, what's next? Well, there's a lot that's next. And currently I'm working on the what's next in my book, No More Mommy Martyr, The Path to Sovereign Motherhood. I also have a personal YouTube channel. It's like a vlog style where I just freestyle and talk about whatever comes into my head. And that is also insights into empowered mom magic, how I take my frameworks for birth and then apply them in other areas of life, including building businesses. So if that interests you, you may find value in joining the newsletter. So just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit, and that will get you access to the Google Drive that has pretty much everything. I have Empowered Birth Wisdom in one folder, and I have Empowered Mom Magic in the other. I do a weekly newsletter. Sometimes I miss weeks because things go on. As moms, we need to be able to do things flexibly. So my consistency is in just the process of I will show up for you in some form. And if you really want more of me, then follow my social media. I have Threads, I have Instagram, I have personal channels, I have the birth channels. My personal channels, I have pretty much everything in there. My birth channels are usually just for empowered birth. And if you have any questions about where to go next, you can always reach out to me, put it in the comments, or better yet, email hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. And either myself or one of my team members will direct you to the appropriate resources. I also do take on coaching clients. So if that interests you, if you'd like to work with me deeper, there is a path for that. All of the information is on my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. And if you would just like to have something really streamlined, you have a question, email. Email is the best way to get what you need. Okay, so that's what I have for you. Thank you so much for watching and have a happy empowered birth journey. I will see you next week. Namaste.